Those of us who come to A Course in Miracles on Tuesday nights, we have been waiting for this for a long time. But in my hot little hand, I have one of the first 2 copies ever sold, both of which I bought, I will say. I hopped on Amazon as soon as I saw this. This is one of the first copies of Marvin Rolnick's book. He is our ACIM guru, is he not? He is the guy that knows it all. This is Erasmus Joseph Lyon, A Spiritual Awakening. And if someone wants to come up and grab this, you can have a look. There's some really cool artwork. Anybody want to grab it?
Bought it.
You bought it already. Cool artwork in there. That is why we've been waiting so long. In a couple of days, maybe as early as tomorrow, we will have 10 copies available in the bookstore. We're going to do 5 paperback and 5 hardcover. They're ordered. They're just not here yet. But it's a really extraordinary book because it's filled with really powerful metaphysical and ACIM-based teachings. And it's all wrapped up in a story about Erasmus Joseph Lyon, who is a literal lion. So he's a natural-born predator and carnivore who decides one day that killing is just not his thing. He's not going to do it anymore. And he chooses differently. He moves into a life of peace and oneness with all. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story, one which he has had in his mind for many years and just brought forward. And I know you're going to love it. It's truly beautiful. He will be coming in to do an organized book signing as soon as his box of books arrives. They were supposed to be there before I got mine, but they're not, which is weird because he's the author, right? But he's coming to do a book signing. He comes to A Course in Miracles. He may be here next Sunday. If you see him, I'm sure he'll sign the book before the signing for you. But the underlying message of that book, that message of changing the life and the thoughts and the behaviors that we've always accepted as real into something new and beautiful by choosing something different. That is a message we really need to hear as we continue on our journey of understanding guilt and shame so that we can all heal those areas of our lives and move forward in a new and profoundly beautiful and empowered way. We all need to intentionally shift away from holding on to fear, including that embarrassment and insecurity, which we call guilt and shame, and a whole lot of other names. And I've got to tell you that my idea of what they are is changing as we go through these talks. So much so that I'm hoping that we can actually fit it all in before we're done with the series. So far, we have looked at shame through the story of Giant and Chameleon at the beginning of Jane Middleton-Moz's book, Shame and Guilt, Masters of Disguise. And not only did we get a long, but oddly on the nose examination of toilet paper and how that and shame are related. And if you have not heard that story, in last week's talks, go online and check it out, because I guarantee you the correlation between shame and toilet paper is not what you think it is. Well, it is, but it's also not. Go online and check it out. It's last week's talk. It's on YouTube. It's on our website. All of that. And we have looked into the old school, like classic psychology approach to healing that shame by shifting it into blame, which then becomes anger, which, as I'm sure we can all agree, that isn't actually healing anything, is it? And we've come up with a really great tool for working through these things. Has anyone started the 3 different journals that we talked about last week? Yeah, I thought I wasn't getting, oh, Kimmy did. I got a hand. So I didn't expect to get any hands. That makes me happy. Has anyone thought about starting the 3 journals? Yeah, got a couple more hands. All right. If you don't know what I'm talking about, again, go online and listen. This is also last week's talk. These talks and the tools in them are for you. Okay, but I know that sometimes the stuff that we're talking about, it isn't what's actually necessarily happening in your lives at that time, right? And that's why going on the website, if you check, honestly, specifically the website, if you go on there, you will see a synopsis of what each series is, and then week by week, you'll see kind of a summary, so you can click what you need at the time. So if you're dealing with the shame, find the shame and guilt series and click that and find the right talk. It's organized very nicely, and the husband with all the hats, he encapsulates what each point is really, really well. So if you're going through some stuff that's got you feeling really angry or judgmental or afraid, or maybe your ego is kicking in and kicking you, just click on the series, okay? Because it's all about shifting all of those things into love, right? It's moving into love. That's what everything is about. It's about love. Love is what moves everything that happens in this amazing universe. It's the only thing that's really real. 1 Corinthians 13:13 says, "And now abide faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love." And I'll give you a spoiler alert. We will be looking at the entirety of that chapter and the following as we move out of this whole set of series, okay? So it's not just this series, but the other three topics in this. So stick around in a few months, because I take a different look at it, okay? Honestly, I hear it all in a different way, and I haven't heard anyone else say that quite like I'm seeing it. So if you want to show up and find out how I'm interpreting things, do. That's 22 weeks from now. So stick around for a while. But getting back to my point, over and over again, our Christian Bible says that love is the most important thing of all. Okay? Jesus said it over and over, reiterated in the New Testament, but it's also all over the Old Testament. But we practitioners of Christianity, we're not alone in that, okay? In the Hindu Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, to love without condition, to talk without intention, to give without reason, care without expectation, that's the spirit of true love. Gautama Buddha said, the thought manifests as the word manifests as the deed develops into habit, and the habit hardens into character. So watch the thought and its ways with care, and let it spring from love, born out of concern for all things. Lao Tzu of Taoism said, love the whole world as if it were yourself, and then you will truly care for all things. And from the Sikh tradition, Guru Nanak said, love is God and God is love. In the Quran, Prophet Muhammad said, you will not enter paradise until you believe, and you will not believe until you love one another. Shall I inform you of something which, if you do, you will love one another? Give greetings, peace amongst yourselves. Over and over again throughout all the millennia, and on every continent and in every age, in every religion and faith practice, love has always been the highest priority. We can trace humanity's reverence of love as the center of all that is, all the way back to the 20th and 21st century BC. That's real far. And throughout all of this time and distance, all of the languages and cultures, there is another thing which is clear. Although we humans have known throughout the eons that love is the only thing that matters, we have not yet mastered how to do it. We have not even begun to hint at the possibility of starting to get even a basic understanding as a people of how. Really, individuals have, right? But collectively, It's pretty clear we haven't gotten the hang of it yet, because guilt and shame and anger and fear and all of the other words that we use to describe all of the reasons that we can't live as one, we don't seem to be willing or able to let those things go, right? And I don't understand why, but I am willing to try to understand. Because if it weren't possible for us all to let go of that painful, shameful, prideful, rageful, is my slide off? What slide am I on? Oh, I'm back. You can't see that yet. You can't see that yet. See, my cues are all bad and my clicker's all bad. So prideful, rageful, warring, separation. You gotta let that go. If it wasn't possible to let all of it go, there could not be all of those records about love. Right? And as long as you will continue to let me stand here and talk, I will strive to offer new ways to bring that realization of that all-lovingness, because it's meant for us. It's been meant for us all along. It's why it's vitally important for us not only to see the beautiful, precious, beloved, individualized expressions of spirit that we are, but also see that everyone else is too. And that is why I think that I am struggling to find useful material within all of the great many books that I bought in preparation for these talks. And I did. I think I bought 7. If we're being honest, sorry, Mike, I bought 7. They're a write-off, let me just say, before he gets mad at me. Because without exception, all of those books, they transform guilt and shame into something else. Every one of them. It's usually blame, and it's often excuses, and all of it results in some kind of manifestation of anger, which at its root is fear. All of them. And anger will never, ever unify. But I realized last night that shame is a form of anger, right? So is guilt. And we use both of those against ourselves as well as others. The idea that we weaponize guilt and shame against others is one of the foundational teachings of A Course in Miracles. And it's a concept that can be really tough to get. It took me a minute. So we're going to move into that starting next week. But for this week, I wanted to stay focused on our own personal brand of guilt and shame, the stuff that we treasure and hoard to convince ourselves that we're unworthy. Let me rephrase that. The stuff that we hoard and painstakingly not only perpetually inventory, but examine in extreme detail so that our ego can continue to thrive. Yeah, that's what it is. I saw Mona's face go, Because remember, when we're talking about ego, we're not talking about it in the sense of a person who's vain. Because you usually say, oh, they have a big ego, right? Yes, but that's not what we're talking about. Ego is that part of us which keeps trying to tell us that we are different and separate from everyone else. And as long as we let our ego continue to tell us that we're different and separate, the quest for the realization of total love, the divine love in all the faith traditions since ever, it'll continue. And humanity will remain lost, seeking, as always, but ultimately lost, because being found means being one. And I know that I tell you how I sit down most of the time when I'm writing these. I sit down and I start typing, and then I kind of follow where I'm led, right? Okay, well, I will tell you that as soon as I finish typing that, 3 very specific words sprang into my mind, and you got a sneak peek. Most of you are going to know this story. Maybe some of you know this by heart, like I do, but I want you to hear it in a new way. And I will preemptively say that I will do my best not to cry. I'm getting slide input. I will do my best not to cry. But I will also tell you that when I read this to the kids at Barnhart, they really love it because every time I pull it forward, they go, "Oh, are you going to cry?" Yes, I probably will. It is The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. And my kids, I read it to you guys every night. In fact, Luke was just saying the other day that I read it to him every night. He made me read it. And it begins, "Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. And every day the boy would come, and he would gather her leaves and make them into crowns and play king of the forest. He would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat apples." Hold on, pages are stuck. "And they would play hide and go seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade. And the boy loved the tree very much, and the tree was happy. But time went by, and the boy grew older, and the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, 'Come, boy, come and climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and eat apples and play in my shade and be happy.' 'I'm too big to climb and play,' said the boy. 'I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money. Can you give me some money?' 'I'm sorry,' said the tree, 'but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money and you will be happy.' And so the boy climbed up the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and the tree was sad. And then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy. 'Come, boy, climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy.' 'I'm too busy to climb trees,' said the boy. 'I want a house to keep me warm,' he said. 'I want a wife and I want children, and so I need a house. Can you give me a house?' 'I have no house,' said the tree. 'The forest is my house, but you may cut off my branches and build a house. Then you will be happy.' And so the boy cut off her branches and carried them away to build his house. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. 'Come, boy,' she whispered, 'come and play.' 'I'm too old and sad to play,' said the boy. 'I want a boat that'll take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat?' 'Cut down my trunk.' See, there it goes. 'Cut down my trunk and make a boat,' said the tree. 'Then you can sail away and be happy.' And so the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away. And the tree was happy. And after a long time, the boy came back again. 'I'm sorry, boy,' said the tree, 'but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone. My teeth are too weak for apples,' said the boy. 'My branches are gone,' said the tree. 'You cannot swing on them.' 'I am too old to swing on branches,' said the boy. 'My trunk is gone,' said the tree. 'You cannot climb. I am too tired to climb,' said the boy. 'I'm sorry,' sighed the tree. 'I wish that I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I'm just an old stump. I'm sorry. I don't need very much now,' said the boy. 'Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I'm very tired.' 'Well,' said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could, 'well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, sit down and rest. And the boy did, and the tree was happy. Who listening felt sorry for the tree? Who felt a little upset with the boy? Now I want you to look at the story as God's relation to us. God, source, the universe, spirit, whatever you want to call that divine impulse in back of all things, that's the tree. And its goal, its only joy, its only desire, its only longing is to give us love and demonstrate it in any and every way it can. And when it can meet our cry for love by providing that we believe we need, God feels loved in return. No matter how we may journey, or how much time passes, or how many times and ways we convince ourselves that divine giving tree isn't there, that God tree isn't real, it always has been. And it's always waiting to meet our needs. And remember, even though it may have seemed that we, as the boy in this story, we were taking and taking without giving back, it was the very act of gratefully accepting what was offered which made the tree happy. God sees you as perfectly as the tree in this story sees the boy. Spirit wants you to be happy. It's yearning to fulfill your every desire. Every time that boy would return, from the time he was very young until he was an old man, all the tree saw was her perfect child, right? She never said, who is this weird looking guy walking up to me? Who is this grown man? Who is this old man with no teeth walking up to me? Right? To the universe, you will always be its perfect child. In that perfection, there is no shame. There is no guilt. God sees only that beautiful little spark of love that He placed in you in that U-shaped vessel, right? So why do you see otherwise? I want to close today with a couple of quick passages from Marianne Williamson's beautiful book, The Mystic Jesus. The first is on page 15. She says, enlightenment begins as an abstract concept, then takes a journey without distance from the head to the heart. Of course, it seems real to us that someone was unkind or mean to us, that we were rejected, or failed to achieve something we desperately wanted, or that an important relationship failed. Of course, it seems real to us that innocent people are murdered, unjust wars occur, and people starve to death. Those things are real in our mortal experience, but such dramas are happening within a world that is itself a veil in front of a truer truth. A world of three-dimensional reality that, while real in one sense, is not our ultimate reality. They are the manifestations of humanity having forgotten who we are. And they will change accordingly when we wake up and remember. As we move further into a new millennium, who among us does not feel a sense that the world as we know it is fundamentally askew? As evidenced not just in our individual lives, but in the very way we are living on the planet. Who doesn't recognize that constant examples of violence and destruction are symptoms of a deeper despair? Who isn't looking in some way for a higher purpose, a deeper sense of meaning, and a transformed sense of self? Such questioning, she says, is where the spiritual quest begins. And once it begins, the path opens before us. Asking deep in our hearts for a way past the insanity of this world, we are led often circuitously, always mysteriously, to something that opens the inner door. And then on page 122, she says, the ego wants to stretch things out, to take the healthy processing of our regrets and turn it into a permanent emotional bludgeon. Once again, the ego is a trick. That does nothing more than delay the day when we go about the business of acting now in a way we didn't act before. If you really want to show you're sorry, go be a different person now. Another reason, she says, that we're sometimes hard on ourselves, of course, is because of the projections of other people. It might be an adult who told you that you were worthless when you were a child, and you've internalized their voice. It might be people who don't even know you, but who have created or bought into a false narrative about who you are. Either way, their voices are now inside your head, convincing you of your lack of worth. She says, one of my favorite Christmas carols is O Holy Night, containing this extraordinary lyric. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. It doesn't matter who other people say you are. Your inestimable worth is established by God. Yes, we have all made mistakes, but who we are, the innocence in which we were created, is an inviolable essence. What God created cannot be altered. We are perfect ideas in the mind of God. If you are comfortable now, I invite you to close your eyes. I'm going to share the prayer that she closes this passage with, and I'd like us all to make it our very own. So please, if you are ready to let go of some of those ideas of guilt or shame within you, please repeat after me. Dear God, I give you the mistakes of my past. I recognize that in those moments, I did not let love prevail. May your Spirit enter my mind as I surrender those moments to you. May my mistake be somehow useful in making me a better person now. Amen. Thank you.